So I'm standing here in the newly replanted rockery at Chatsworth. A couple of years ago, this was replanted. It was built a couple of hundred years ago by Paxton. Incredible engineering feat, but who knows what the planting was like back then. I don't know if there's a planting plan, but in those days, more often than not, rockeries were used to display a huge collection of plants. And what I love about this planting is it's not doing that at all. It's trying to create an overall effect. But it's a largely herbaceous replant. Now, it looks to me that Tom Stuart-Smith, whose job this was, has left some really key woody plants around the place. So there's a big katsura over there. There's lots of Japanese maples, the amazing cotoneaster up the top of the slope there. And then done this infill of all of these perennials in a way that we're used to seeing in the naturalistic movement, but not on a slope, almost always presented in a horizontal plane. So really interesting to see tilted, raked, or sloping away from you, but with all these massive projections of stone sticking through all of that growth. I love the fact that the scale of each of the plantings seems to respond very well to the scale of the rocks as well. That there's quite chunky sections of one plant, but always intermingling with something else, is always interfacing with the neighboring plants, so that there's not strong definitions where one plant stops and the next starts, but there is sections of uninterrupted plant that's really important for legibility. From here, it's really interesting to see also demonstrated a kind of variability of visibility, I guess, or legibility. You know, looking across the slope behind me here, there's big banks of Molinia creating, that's the grass, creating this sort of fuzz of purple, but then the hydrangea paniculata as well. And it's really critical in a garden of this size, of course, to make sure you've got plants that have enough of a glamour factor or present their color with enough density or visibility that from a distance there is still some clarity about that, because other than that it would all just turn to fuzz. But I love it from here looking around that you have kind of fuzz turning into blocky, highly visible floral effect back to fuzz in this beautiful kind of cloud forms of interlocking density and diffusion. I love the fact that amongst all this massive scale, there's still a lot of detail, you know, and tucked in here is this Daphne Eternal Fragrance, usually used as a highly horticultural feature plant. It's a reasonably recent development in breeding, but here tucked in under these boulders and almost just looking like a green extension of the boulder. Or the gunra in the background against the rock. Again, these plants we usually see in highly horticultural settings, looking fantastically comfortable and unself-conscious in this very theatrical setting, but theatrically naturalistic setting. And again, down here at the bottom, this beautiful combination of hydrangea paniculata, a really open flowered form, so kind of one of the more humble forms, but in combination with this Actaea, once was Simicifuga, which is a beautiful scent to it, puncturing up through these white flowers. So the kind of effect that any gardener would be proud of, but in this amazing setting that makes it feel so fabulously natural, if that's possible, but certainly unself-conscious. I think it's an absolute triumph to see perennials used en masse for overall effect, where planting is definitely a team sport. It's not about the featuring of any individual plant. It's about the overall effect on this incredibly theatrical scale. A sensation.